Few have claimed the glory of setting foot on the world's highest mountain. Despite the problematic journey laden with rugged terrains, harsh weather conditions, and a thin atmosphere, climbers from different parts of the world flock to the Himalayan mountain range for the prestige and glory of conquering Mount Everest, despite the danger of losing limbs or their lives. Tales of death amidst its slopes are lessons to any adventurous soul who dares reach its peak. A horrific lesson was learned by these 5 climbers who ventured and met their demise on Mount Everest. Story 1. Standing 29,032 feet above sea level, Jason Kennison felt the sting of thin air at the summit of Mount Everest. White puffs of breath escaped his lips as he gazed at the spectacular view that unfolded before him. The vast expanse of snow-covered peaks in the Himalayas seemed to stretch endlessly, and the pride of reaching such heights filled him with a deep sense of accomplishment. At 40 years old, Jason's ascent to the summit of Mount Everest meant more to him than just a typical mountaineering adventure. Looking back to 2006, a car accident had left him paralyzed. The doctors had given him the devastating news that he would never walk again. But rather than letting this tragedy define him, Jason chose a path of incredible determination and perseverance. Against all odds, he regained the ability to stand and walk. Atop the world's highest peak, Jason's achievement held significance beyond the physical feat of conquering Mount Everest. It symbolized a triumph over adversity, a testament to his resilience. He had made a solemn vow to himself and to use his legs for a higher purpose, to ascend the highest mountain on the planet. His May 2023 expedition to the Himalayan peak was more than a personal conquest. Jason climbed with a mission to raise funds for charity, specifically Spinal Cord Injuries Australia. The cause held a special place in his heart, and through his climb, he aimed to inspire others with his story of resilience and the unwavering spirit that led him to the summit. Before attempting the ascent, Jason spent 6 weeks in Nepal, acclimating to the harsh weather conditions and preparing for the challenging climb. Alongside him was Dawa Stephen Sherpa, the Asian trekking boss managing Kennison's climb, and the rest of the group. The weeks of preparation were crucial, considering the problematic conditions they would face. As they ascended from base camp, the harsh winds and weather conditions made the climb challenging, even during Everest's spring climbing season. Snow-covered slopes and dangerous cliffs tested the group, but strict protocols and proper gear helped them push forward. Finally, on the 19th of May, the group reached the summit. The breathtaking view from the top felt like a reward for their determination. Jason stood on the highest point on Earth, proud and accomplished, but an uneasiness crept into his mind. As they reveled in their achievement, Jason developed a throbbing headache. Nausea and shortness of breath followed, making his movements uncoordinated. The Sherpa, noticing Jason's distress, rushed to his aid. Before they could descend, Jason became unresponsive. With great effort, the Sherpa brought Jason to a place known as the balcony, a resting point for climbers at around 27,600 feet. Aware of the difficulty of descending with an unresponsive climber and nearly empty oxygen cylinders, the Sherpa made a difficult decision. Leading the group, they descended to Camp 4 to replenish their oxygen supplies and prepare for a rescue mission. However, the wind and weather turned harsher, making an immediate return to the balcony impossible. Trapped at a lower altitude, the group could only wait helplessly as Jason's condition worsened. Trapped in a dire situation with no chance of immediate rescue and altitude sickness intensifying, Jason took his last breath on the balcony. His body lay on the cold, snow-covered peaks of Mount Everest, joining the other 16 confirmed fatalities of the spring climbing season of 2023. News of Jason's untimely demise reached his family and friends, who mourned his loss. Yet, amidst the grief, there was no remorse. They recognized that Jason had lived an entire life and achieved the goal he had set for himself. He had reached the summit of Mount Everest, but the descent had eluded him. Story 2. The crisp air cut through Peter Swartz's senses as he jolted awake on May 24, 2023. Instead of the cozy warmth of his home in Vancouver, Canada, he found himself on the icy slopes of Camp 4, perched on the towering heights of the world's mightiest peak, Mount Everest. At 63, Peter, an anesthesiologist at UBC and Vancouver General Hospitals, clung to an unyielding determination to conquer Everest summit. Fueled by a deep passion for adventure and an indomitable spirit, his lifelong dream was within grasp during the spring climbing season of 2023. Guided by Madison Mountaineering, a renowned service for mountain expeditions, Peter braced himself for the final stretch of his journey. Camp 4, standing at a daunting 26,247 feet above sea level, signaled the last pause before climbers launched their ultimate assault on the summit. The air at these heights lacked the life-sustaining oxygen, and Peter sensed something amiss upon awakening. A pounding headache, surges of nausea, and a fight for breath hinted at the ruthless conditions. Despite being close to fulfilling his lifelong dream, Peter recognized the warnings his body was sending. As the chilling winds howled around Camp 4, Peter faced a critical decision. He could push on, chase his dream, or listen to the whispers of danger in the thin air. The mountain stood silent but unforgiving, and Peter grappled with the choice that could shape his destiny. The relentless ascent had brought him to the brink, and the unforgiving altitude started to exact its toll. Peter's body, though strong-willed, began to protest. Every step toward the summit seemed heavier, the air thinner, and the dream that had beckoned him felt farther away. With a heavy heart, Peter made the tough call to return from the summit and head down to the lower camps. He aimed for Camp 2, where a waiting helicopter promised a quick trip to the nearest medical help, but the descent mirrored the challenging climb up, battling harsh weather, gusty winds, and tricky terrain that slowed his every step. As Peter descended toward Camp 3, things got worse. Breathing became a struggle, nausea hit harder, and his muscles screamed with fatigue despite the downward trek. His once steady movements slipped away, and keeping his balance became challenging. Breaths turned unpredictable, and dizziness wrapped around him, but Peter pushed forward, convincing himself that Camp 3 was just a bit more. Hope held on to the belief that help awaited him at the third camp, but the mountain, cold and indifferent, had its plans. Peter's body succumbed to the harsh elements of the mountain. Weary eyes stared at the seemingly short distance to Camp 3, but darkness swiftly claimed his vision. Consciousness slipped away, and Peter was slowly overtaken by acute altitude sickness. It wasn't long before he completely lost control of his descent, falling into the mountain's unforgiving embrace, long before reaching the refuge he desperately sought. Within Everest's unforgiving embrace, cardiac arrest gripped Peter, another victim of the mountain's towering challenges. Lifeless, he lay on the cold and arid terrain, joining others who dared to face the formidable strength of the mountain. Their stories echoed in the icy peaks, a testament to the triumphs and tragedies written in the snow and rocks of Everest. While loved ones mourned Peter's passing, regret was absent from their hearts. He had lived to the fullest, pursuing his dreams with an unyielding spirit. In the face of Everest's might, Peter met his end. Still, his journey remained a testament to the indomitable human spirit that drives individuals to conquer even the highest peaks, no matter the cost. Story 3. The frigid winds howled through the jagged peaks of Mount Everest as Ngaima Tenjai Sherpa stood on the icy slopes of the Khumbu icefall. The weight of the load on his shoulders pressed heavily against him, but his weathered face betrayed no sign of strain. Sherpas, an ethnic group native to the mountainous regions of Nepal, were renowned for their expertise in mountaineering. Ngaima Tenjai, at the age of 38, was already considered a veteran in the field, having summited Everest multiple times. The Himalayas, with their towering peaks and treacherous terrain, were home to these resilient people. Sherpas were known for their endurance at high altitudes, physical strength, and intimate knowledge of the mountain landscape. Many of them worked as guides, porters, or support staff for climbers attempting to conquer the formidable peaks of the region. On the 14th of April 2022, Ngaima Tenjai embarked on yet another ascent of Everest. Carrying a heavy load on his back, he traversed through snow, ice, and jagged rocks with the ease of someone who had become one with the mountain. His journey was routine, a familiar task of hauling materials and supplies to Camp 2. His path led him near an area known as the football field in the Khumbu Icefall at 17,999 feet above sea level. Despite the Khumbu Icefall being one of the most dangerous stages of the South Col route to the summit, the football field was considered relatively safe. Many Sherpas chose this route due to its better conditions. Ngaima Tenjai was part of a group of approximately a dozen IMG high-altitude workers, ferrying loads from Everest Base Camp to Camps 1 and 2. They were preparing to construct the expedition's Camp 2 setup that day. Gears prepared, tasks in mind, the Sherpas ascended with purpose. The initial minutes of Ngaima Tenjai's climb were uneventful, as he advanced with calculated precision. However, as he approached the camp, a sudden wave of nausea engulfed him. He stopped in his tracks, feeling his breathing become labored. Panic set in as his vision blurred, and he found himself alone on the desolate slopes of the mountain. Attempting to press on, Ngaima Tenjai felt increasingly lightheaded. His movements became erratic, and he struggled to maintain coordination. Desperate for help, he looked around but saw no one. Feeling nauseous and exhausted, he sat down, still burdened by his backpack, hoping rest would restore his strength. Time passed, but his breathing became more erratic instead of improving, and the world around him seemed to spin. Collapsing while still sitting, Ngaima Tenjai Sherpa became another victim of high-altitude sickness on the frigid slopes of Mount Everest. His lifeless form was discovered at approximately 4 a.m. local time, a lone figure next to the trail, still wearing the backpack that had been his constant companion. Helicopters soon arrived to carry his remains off the mountain. Initial investigations revealed no signs of illness, falls, avalanches, or trauma. Ngaima Tenjai Sherpa's death was attributed to the silent and deadly high-altitude sickness that claimed the lives of many on Everest. It was ironic that a seasoned guide who made a living guiding others through the most treacherous mountain range on the planet would meet his end doing precisely that. About a third of the deaths on Everest are Nepali guides and porters, underscoring the immense risk they undertake for the dreams of countless paying climbers seeking to conquer the world's highest peak. Ngaima Tenjai Sherpa's story served as a sad reminder of the unforgiving nature of Everest and the sacrifices made in pursuit of its summit. Story 4. Christopher John Kulish stood on the slopes of Mount Everest, his 62-year-old frame facing the rising sun on the 27th day of May in 2019. The breathtaking ascent unfolded before him, a surreal experience surpassing anything he had witnessed. This moment marked the culmination of a lifelong dream for the American lawyer, to scale and conquer the towering peak of Mount Everest. Having celebrated his 62nd birthday in April that year, Christopher diligently ventured into the formidable challenge. His goal extended beyond merely conquering the highest point on the planet. It was about attaining membership in the esteemed 7 Summit Club. This exclusive distinction was reserved for those rare adventurers who successfully conquered the highest peaks on each of the 7 continents. Christopher's journey, however, was no casual stroll. It demanded years of rigorous training and experience to navigate the treacherous peaks of the world. Yet he was no novice. He was a fit and seasoned climber. Alongside his group, he exuded confidence that they would conquer Everest's summit. The ascent proceeded uneventfully. Christopher's group, benefiting from the favorable spring climbing season, made their way up the mountain in nearly ideal weather conditions. Before embarking on the final leg of their journey, they paused at Camp 4, the last camp before the challenging push to the summit, a camp situated within the notorious death zone of the mountain. Perched at around 26,000 feet above sea level, Camp 4 presented harsh conditions characterized by low oxygen levels, extreme cold, and treacherous terrain. Oxygen supplementation was crucial at this altitude, a lifeline for climbers navigating the perilous heights. Camp 4 was a pivotal point in the Everest climb, signaling the transition into the death zone, where oxygen levels dipped critically low, exposing climbers to increased risks of altitude sickness, frostbite, and other life-threatening conditions. Life-threatening conditions would soon cast their dark shadow over Christopher. Following their stay at Camp 4, Christopher's group received the green light to ascend the final challenge, conquering the summit. The ascent proved grueling, testing Christopher's mettle against the unforgiving elements. His body felt the strain of the terrain and weather conditions, the thinning atmosphere exacting a toll on his breathing. Christopher pressed on, despite the fatigue threatening to overwhelm him, determined to reach the pinnacle. At the summit, the group's triumph was perfect. Christopher witnessed the sunrise atop the world, a moment etched deep within his adventurous spirit. Yet this moment of triumph was destined to be short-lived. A subtle unease crept over Christopher as the group descended from the summit. Breathing became a struggle, as if he were trying to draw air through a narrow straw. His experienced companions noticed his distress, and concern etched their faces. Suddenly, without warning, Christopher lost consciousness. Initially attributing his condition to altitude sickness, the group quickly realized they were grappling with a more formidable adversary. The towering slopes of Everest had claimed another adventurous soul. The revelation that followed was both surprising and grim. Christopher's untimely demise was not linked to altitude sickness. Instead, he had suffered a cardiac arrest while descending from the summit. The mountain, indifferent to conquests and dreams, had asserted its dominance most tragically. Despite the loss, Christopher's family found solace in the fact that he had met his end while engaging in what he loved. A climber at heart, he had faced the ultimate challenge and left the world on the heights he cherished. His legacy, etched in the winds that swept Everest, would forever be intertwined with the mountain that tested and claimed him. Story 5. Kuriki stood alone on the frigid summit of Denali, the wind howling around him as if nature was testing the limits of his resilience. It was 2004, and he had just conquered the tallest peak in North America. Little did he know, this would begin a roller coaster journey that would eventually thrust him into the spotlight, then into controversy, and finally into the unforgiving arms of the world's highest mountain. In 2005, Kuriki's star continued to rise. Aconcagua, Elbrus, and Kilimanjaro fell beneath his determined feet. The mountaineering world took notice of this unassuming figure with a heart as towering as the peaks he scaled. He reached the summit of Oceania's Carstensz Pyramid, proving that his ambitions knew no bounds. The year 2007 saw Kuriki conquer Cho-Oyu and Vinson Massif, earning him a place in the pantheon of elite mountaineers. His achievements were immortalized in a TV documentary, catapulting him to fame and boosting his popularity. With newfound recognition, he utilized his status to secure donations and sponsorships for international expeditions, fulfilling dreams that once seemed impossible. However, as Kuriki ascended to greater heights, so did the controversies surrounding him. Questionable claims of solo alpine-style ascents without supplemental oxygen cast shadows over his achievements. Doubts were raised about his independence, with revelations of reliance on guides and fixed ropes. Contradictions in his solo claims, such as on Kilimanjaro, where a guide is required, fueled skepticism among the mountaineering community. Despite his successes, Kuriki faced numerous challenges and failures. Unsuccessful attempts on Everest, Annapurna, and Shishapangma marred his record. Controversial choices in planning rush schedules and poor acclimatization strategies haunted his expeditions. The 2009 Everest attempt failed due to fatigue and altitude sickness, setting the stage for even more significant setbacks. The year 2012 proved to be a turning point in Kuriki's life. Frostbite and mistakes during the attempt at Shishapangma led to the permanent loss of 9 fingers. Yet undeterred, he made a comeback in 2014 with the successful ascent of Broad Peak. However, subsequent failures in 2015, 2016, and 2017 turned the internet into a ruthless arena of mockery. Amid the ridicule, Kuriki harbored a determination to reclaim his glory. In 2018, he embarked on a perilous journey, a challenging 8th ascent of Everest via the southwest face, and this time he vowed to do it without supplemental oxygen. The southwest face was a less traveled route, demanding exceptional skill and courage. However, Kuriki's grand aspirations were met with dwindling admirers, sponsors, and expedition funds. The fall from grace had been harsh, but he faced the challenge with the quiet determination that had characterized his entire career. May 21, 2018 marked the beginning of Kuriki's fateful attempt. As he ascended the southwest face, the world watched with bated breath. The once jubilant explorer now traversed the treacherous slopes with diminished support and heightened risks. Kuriki had become a lone figure against Everest's vast, unforgiving canvas. Early in the attempt, illness struck, causing delays. It was a cruel twist of fate, a reminder of the unpredictable nature of high-altitude endeavors. Serious illness befell Kuriki while camping at 7,400 meters. He sent a radio message to his climbing guides at Camp 2 from Camp 3, pleading for help. Responding to his distress call, a team of guides left for Camp 3 immediately. The unforgiving terrain and biting cold slowed their progress. Kuriki had asked for help as he suffered from a persistent cough and pain, his guide later revealed. In the challenging conditions of Everest, every moment counted, and time slipped away like melting snow. As the team ascended toward Camp 3, the radio network disconnected in the freezing darkness. It was impossible to locate Kuriki in the night, lost in the vast expanse of the mountain. The guides faced the relentless challenges of the Everest night, a void where survival often depended on quick decisions and luck. Kuriki, battling his demons, fell down a cliff while traversing the dangerous slopes in the dark. The mountain, indifferent to human struggles, claimed another victim. He succumbed to his injuries and the unforgiving embrace of low body temperature or hypothermia, his final moments a haunting testament to the relentless pursuit of human ambition. The news of Kuriki's fate sent shockwaves through the mountaineering community and the world. His body was found the following day at 7,200 meters above sea level, near Camp 2. The remnants of a dream lay scattered on the unforgiving slopes of Everest. The mixed emotions in Japan mirrored the complex legacy Kuriki left behind. Few knew he was attempting another Everest ascent, and the news brought sadness, reflection, and an acknowledgement of the dangers of pursuing such lofty goals. Kuriki's journey, from the heights of triumph to the depths of controversy and tragedy, was a testament to the unpredictable nature of mountaineering. The mountains, as majestic and awe-inspiring as they are, demand respect and resilience. Kuriki's story is a stark reminder that even the most seasoned climbers are not immune to the perils that loom on the world's highest peaks.